This is what being in the top 1% actually looks like. But here's what most people don't understand. There are levels to this. Tonight, I'm taking you inside 3 completely different worlds within the top 1%. What you're about to see might shock you because the gap between these 3 people is almost as large as the gap between them and everyone else. Let's start at the bottom of the top. Meet James. He's 32 and he just made it. After grinding for a decade as a software engineer, he finally crossed into the top 1% of earners in America, making $500,000 a year. Now, $500,000 sounds like an insane amount of money, and it is. But here's the catch. In San Francisco, where James lives, the 1% threshold is actually around $800,000. So technically, he's not even in the 1% in his own city. But nationally, he's made it. After taxes, James brings home about $26,000 a month. Sounds like a fortune, right? Let's see where it actually goes. His 2-bedroom condo in a decent San Francisco neighborhood costs $4,500 a month. And no, he's not buying, he's renting. To actually buy a place like this, he'd need at least $200,000 for a down payment, and even then, his mortgage would run over $8,000 a month. So for now, renting it is. After years of driving a beat-up Honda, James finally upgraded to this Tesla Model 3. The monthly payment is $850, insurance runs another $200, and because this is San Francisco, parking costs him $300 a month. That's $1,350 just to own a car he barely drives, because he mostly takes Uber to avoid the city's parking nightmare. Food is where James really feels the difference from his old life. He's spending about $2,000 a month, and he can actually feel good about it. He DoorDashes 4 times a week because after 60-hour work weeks, he's exhausted. A single dinner from a nice restaurant runs $60 to $80, and he doesn't even think twice anymore. When he walks into Whole Foods, he just buys whatever he wants, organic everything. That Japanese A5 Wagyu for $120 a pound? Into the cart it goes. Healthcare is fully covered by his tech company, but James still pays about $400 a month on an upscale gym membership, expensive supplements, and weekly therapy sessions. When you're making this kind of money, you're expected to perform at a level that's honestly exhausting. But here's where it gets really interesting. After all his expenses, housing, car, food, entertainment, subscriptions, James has about $10,000 left every month. And this is the real game changer. He's maxing out his 401k, his Roth IRA, and putting the rest in index funds. This money is working 24/7, compounding, growing. If he keeps this up for just 5 years, he'll have over $600,000 invested. That's generational wealth building in real time. But here's the thing, James still feels middle class. His coworkers making $300,000 feel middle class too, because all around them are people making $10 million, $50 million, $100 million a year. They see the Lamborghinis, the penthouses, the private jets. James is at the bottom of the top 1%, and the gap between him and the next level, it's massive. So let's see what that next level actually looks like. This is Sydney. She's a partner at a major law firm in Manhattan, and she makes $10 million a year. James just entered the 1%. Sydney has been here for 15 years, and she's now in the top 0.1%, a group of only about 200,000 households in the entire country. This is her primary residence in the Hamptons. 6 bedrooms, 8 bathrooms, 8,000 square feet of modern luxury. She bought it for $12 million 3 years ago. Her monthly carrying costs, mortgage, property tax, insurance, and staff run about $65,000 a month. Staff. Yes, Sydney has staff. A full-time housekeeper earning $75,000 a year, a landscaping crew that comes twice weekly, a pool maintenance company, and a house manager who coordinates everything making $120,000 annually. Sydney doesn't clean, garden, or manage repairs. She pays people to make all of that disappear. She rotates between these 3 cars: the Range Rover for everyday errands, the Porsche 911 for weekend fun, and the Mercedes S-Class for impressing clients. Combined, these vehicles cost about $350,000. And here's the key. She didn't finance any of them. She bought them outright. Why? Because at her income level, taking out a loan at 6% interest makes no sense when her investments are returning 10 to 12% annually. Every financial decision is optimized. When Sydney needs to be in the city, her personal driver picks her up. She pays him $85,000 a year plus full benefits. Sounds extravagant, right? But think about it. Sydney's billable hour rate is $1,500. If she works for 3 hours during her commute instead of driving, she's just made $4,500. The driver literally pays for himself. And food, Sydney doesn't think about food costs anymore. She has a personal chef who prepares meals based on menus designed by her nutritionist. The chef, the groceries, the meal planning, all of it costs about $15,000 a month. When she takes clients out to dinner, she's spending $500 to $1,000 per person at Michelin-starred restaurants. Last week's dinner at Per Se, $6,000 for 4 people, expensed to the firm. Here's where life really transforms. Sydney flies private. Not always, she'll still fly commercial first class to Europe, but for domestic trips, she charters private jets. New York to Miami runs her about $18,000. That might sound insane, but consider this. She's saving 6 hours of airport security, delays, and connections, and she's arriving refreshed for a meeting that could close a $50 million deal. Healthcare at Sydney's level is concierge medicine. She pays $40,000 a year for a private doctor who's available 24/7. Same-day appointments, house calls, direct cell phone access. She gets every preventative scan and test available. Last year, they caught a small issue early that could have become life-threatening. This level of healthcare is literally adding years to her life. Sydney is a member of Soho House, Core Club, and this, an ultra-exclusive private club in Manhattan that costs $150,000 just to join, plus $50,000 every year. Why pay this much? Because this is where real deals happen. Sydney has closed more business at this bar than in her corner office. After all her expenses, Sydney is investing about $400,000 every month. Her current net worth, $87 million. She owns her Hamptons estate outright, a condo in Manhattan, and a villa in Tuscany. Her investment portfolio is masterfully diversified. Stocks, bonds, real estate, private equity, and yes, even some cryptocurrency. But here's what's fascinating. Sydney still has a boss. She still takes calls at 11 p.m. She still stresses about billing hours and keeping clients happy. She's undeniably rich, but she's still working. She's still performing. She's not truly free. True freedom, the kind where you never think about money, where you shape the world instead of just responding to it, that exists at the next level. And the gap between Sydney and that level, it's staggering. Let me show you. This is Rick. He's the founder and CEO of a private equity firm, and last year he made $147 million. Not from a salary. He actually takes a salary of just $1 because it's better for taxes, but from carried interest, dividends, and the appreciation of his stakes in the companies his firm owns. This is his yacht. It's 180 feet long, costs $95 million to custom build, and runs about $10 million a year just to maintain and staff. Rick employs a full-time crew of 12. Captain, private chef, engineers, stewardesses. This isn't just a toy. It's a mobile office, a negotiation space, and honestly, one of his favorite investments because it brings him genuine joy. James is learning to build wealth. Sydney has built substantial wealth and lives very comfortably. But Rick has reached the level where money is no longer the game. For Rick, it's about legacy, influence, and impact on a global scale. Rick owns homes in 6 countries. His primary residence is a 20,000 square foot estate in Greenwich, Connecticut, valued at $47 million. He also owns a penthouse in Manhattan, a beach house in Malibu, a chalet in Aspen, a flat in London, and a villa in the south of France. The combined annual carrying cost for all of these properties? About $8 million. That's just to maintain them, and Rick doesn't manage any of this himself. He has what's called a family office, essentially a private company that exists solely to manage his wealth and life. He employs 14 people full-time: accountants, lawyers, investment managers, estate managers, and personal assistants. Their entire job is to make Rick's life completely frictionless. This is how Rick gets around when he's in a hurry. helicopter from his Connecticut estate to the yacht, or from Manhattan to the Hamptons. The helicopter costs $5 million to purchase, runs $400,000 a year to maintain and insure, and costs $2,000 per flight hour. Rick uses it 3 to 4 times a week without thinking twice. Rick also owns a Gulfstream G650. That's a $70 million private jet. It costs $3 to $4 million annually just to keep it operational, fueled, and staffed. But it means Rick can decide tonight to fly to Tokyo, Paris, or Dubai, and be there tomorrow morning. And he does this constantly. Want to know the real difference between Rick's life and Sydney's? Sydney is rich. Rick is wealthy. She has freedom from financial worry. Rick has the freedom to literally create his own reality. Last year, Rick donated $25 million to his alma mater. They named an entire building after him. He gave $10 million to a medical research foundation studying a disease that affected his family. He funded a scholarship program for underprivileged kids that will run forever in perpetuity. Now, let's be honest about something. Rick also gets absolutely massive tax benefits from all of this philanthropy. His effective tax rate last year was just 18%. That's lower than a middle school teacher making $60,000. Rick's team of accountants structures everything through LLCs, trusts, and charitable foundations to legally minimize taxes. It's not fair, but it's the system. Rick collects art at the highest level. That Basquiat on the wall cost him $18 million. That Rothko over there was $22 million. And this emerging artist whose work he bought for $200,000 3 years ago, it's now worth $4 million. For Rick, art isn't just beautiful, it's an appreciating asset class that can also be used strategically for tax deductions. Rick sits on the boards of 3 Fortune 500 corporations and 2 major nonprofits. He has private dinners with senators and governors. He attends Davos, Sun Valley, and the Allen and Company conference. Rick doesn't just participate in the economy, he actively shapes it. When he decides to invest in a company, he can mobilize $500 million in capital with just a few phone calls. James is trying to get rich and build security. Sydney is rich and very comfortable, but Rick exists in an entirely different universe. His children will never have to work unless they choose to. His grandchildren will be born into wealth that spans multiple generations. This is dynastic wealth. The gap between James and Sydney is $9.5 million a year. But the gap between Sydney and Rick, that's $137 million a year. The top 1% isn't one unified group. It's a ladder, and the higher you climb, you realize something startling. The gap between each run keeps getting wider and wider. The difference between the bottom and the top of the 1% is almost as vast as the difference between the 1% and everyone else. So, where do you want to be?